Hey guys, good morning. Happy Friday. I bet you're so excited it's the weekend, almost the weekend. Here is a video to send you off into your weekend, just reviewing everything we've talked about this week with factors and multiples. By now you've probably heard me say it enough times that you're starting to have it memorized. There are few factors, but many multiples. That's our memory trick. Okay, so factors are the numbers that you multiply together to get a product. So when you're looking at a multiplication expression, it's factor times factor equals product. And when we're working with fractions, you're going to use the greatest common factor, meaning the biggest factor that two numbers have in common. We use that to put fractions in simplest form. Okay, so let's say you wanted to find the greatest common factor for the numbers 12 and 18. Make a T-chart for each number and then list the factors. Always start with 1 in the number first. And then list the numbers that you can multiply together to get that number. So for 12, it's 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. And then for 18, same thing. Always start with 1 in the number first. 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. I think that's it for 18. Okay, now for the greatest common factor, we need to look at both of these lists and find the biggest number that's on both lists. Now, 1 is on both of those lists, but that's not the biggest number that they have in common. That's not the biggest factor that they have in common. Looks like 6 is going to be the greatest common factor for 12 and 18. Okay? Now, when we're talking about multiples, multiples are the numbers that you say when you're skip counting. So if you were trying to find multiples for, let's say, the number 7, you would be skip counting 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, and so on. And there are many, many multiples for every number, so you could keep going as high as you can count. Okay? You're going to use the least common multiple. In fractions, you use the least common multiple to find a common denominator. Okay, so common denominators are useful for adding and subtracting fractions and comparing fractions. Okay, so for least common multiple, if you were trying to come up with a common denominator for, say, let's say you were doing like 2/3 and 5/6, and you needed a common denominator, you would skip count by both denominators. You'd skip count by 3 and you'd skip count by 6. 3, 6, 9, 12, 18. Usually I say, oh, I missed one, 15. I usually say, do like the first 5 or 6 multiples. 6, 12, 18, 24. Okay, so it looks like, what's the smallest multiple that's on both of these lists? Let's see, 3 is not on both lists. It looks like 6. So if you wanted a common denominator for 2/3 and 5/6, you would convert both of those fractions so that the denominator was 6. Okay? So let's see, 3 times 2 is 6 and 2 times 2 is 4. 6 times, and this one just stays the same. Okay, so that is the difference between greatest common factor and least common multiple. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend.
Bye.
I miss you so much. Jonah says bye too. Work hard, and I'll see you all on Monday.
No!